Can you beat Dark Souls with only a bow? Yes, obviously, because can do damage, can win. But it's all about the journey, not the destination. Therefore, let's talk about the challenges, struggles, and roadblocks in this challenge run. But first, the rules. Can only use the bow to deal damage. No summons, no glitches or exploits, and we must defeat every boss in the game. With the rules out of the way, let the run begin. I had to do the starting section of this run twice because I didn't hit record. Thankfully, it was only the first hour, so it didn't take too long to get back to where I was in the run. I start as the Hunter class, because it's the only one with a bow, and I take the Master Key as the starting gift, because I want to play this run optimally. I sprint past all the enemies, and speak to Oscar to get my Estus Flask and the key to floor 2. And on the top floor of the Asylum, I get my first bow, the short bow, and 30 arrows. My arrows do 52 damage, and it's easy to stay at range so I can avoid the Asylum demon's attacks. An easy first fight using only 16 arrows. Once we get free of the Asylum, we take the Velka Express to Firelink Shrine and level up Dexterity, my main stat for the run, as almost all bows scale with this stat to some degree. Now that I'm at Firelink Shrine, my plan begins. I start by heading down to the Anor Londo ruins and use my Master Key to enter the Valley of the Drakes. I, of course, being a professional Dark Souls player, wake up the sleeping undead dragon and die twice getting the soul of a proud knight. But other than that, I get to the bonfire with the Black Knight in Darkroot Basin, where I pick up the Grass Crest Shield and parry the knight off the ledge, making him fall to his death. I then head back to the Valley of Drakes to get the red Tearstone ring, which has some interesting interactions with a bow and arrow. Through Darkroot Basin again, I pick up the longbow and kill a crystal lizard, and I got pretty lucky with a Titanite chunk drop. Once I reach the Undead Parish, I buy a bunch of large arrows using the poppable souls I obtained on the way here, and then head back to Firelink Shrine through the Undead Parish where I pick up a Firekeeper's soul, which eventually I'll stuff into my Estus bottle like an Aussie construction worker might stuff cheap whiskey in his coffee. Heading through the intended route of the game, picking up any loose souls I can, I head into the Undead Burg where I purchase more large arrows from the Undead Merchant. And I make a mad dash through the Undead Burg Taurus Demon fight, where I kill another crystal lizard and get another chunk, that's pretty lucky, before killing the archers and getting myself into red Tearstone range by throwing myself off a ladder several times. The damage my arrows do for an unupgraded bow is pretty good, with the RTSR at 157 damage a shot. And I'll talk more about how I think the RTSR works with the bows when it next comes up. However, that's probably not going to be for a while. With the Dragon Bridge unlocked, I do some farming so I can get my weapon for the run. Once I farm 20,000 souls from this bridge, which took about 20 minutes, I head back to Andre and buy the Crest of Artorius. I use this to gain access to the Forest Hunter Woods way before I should be here. And I need to farm some more souls quickly, only 10,000 this time, but it goes much faster as instead of 500 souls per run, it's more like 3,000. Before I go and join the Cats, or as it's more officially known as, the Forest Hunters Covenant, which makes all the NPCs in the forest non-hostile, including the bow-wielding NPC. To get my weapon, I Sparta kick him off the cliff, which is allowed as it deals no damage. And then I reload the game by saving and quitting, and voila, the Black Bow of Pharis, the bow with the highest scaling in the game. I then head back to Andre, where I buy 9 Titanite shards and upgrade my bow to +5, and spend the leftover souls on dexterity to get that sweet scaling damage. I make a couple of attempts to get past the enemies at the parish, unsuccessfully. It's clear in this area at least that I won't be able to just run past the enemies, so I decide to take it more slowly and use the bow as a ranged weapon instead of just running through everything. I kill both mini-bosses in the area using this method, that being the Channeler and the Berrakine Knight. This allows me to also free Lautrec from his cell. The Bell Gargoyles are a challenge for me with the bow, mostly because I tried to use the red Tearstone ring to speed through it. But once I took my time instead of trying to speedrun the boss, they weren't as difficult as you could imagine. Because of the bow's range and my upgrade advantage, I cleared them pretty comfortably. The biggest opening was when the gargoyles were using their fire breath attacks. I could easily outrange it and fire my bow. And with the bell gargoyles down, I ring the first Bell of Awakening. The depths are my next stop. In order to get the next upgrade tier, I need the large Ember. So I need to go through the lower Undead Berg and the Capra Demon for that. Baiting the dogs in the Berg into the fire, I go to rescue Greeks, and I realise I never got the Residence Key. Not that it matters anyway, because he doesn't sell any useful items for me this run. Now, I kind of have a problem. I can't kill the Capra Demon. The dogs simply pin me against a wall and make me bleed, and if that doesn't kill me, the Capra Demon soon finishes me off. I remember that I have access to the Forest Hunters area of the Darkroot Garden. So I pick up the wolf ring along the way, and I grab the stone armor from the garden to use one of my favourite strategies, the Tank and Spank. This armor and ring will simply allow me to stand in the Capra Demon's arena and fire with my bow with reckless abandon, occasionally healing. Let's see how this strategy works in practice. It just works, and it works far better than I expected. Because I literally don't take more than one step into the arena, the second dog never attacks me. Therefore, I can just take several hits in a row from the demon and hammer on the attack trigger, occasionally healing. Surely this strategy of tanking damage will work for the entire run on DPS checks, so I don't have to fight multiple enemies at once in fights that aren't designed to have several attacks that come and hit you from off screen. Right? The depths are simple if you know how to get through quickly. Make a simple parkour jump and grab the large Ember from the chest behind the butcher. Then take the slide and stay on the left and go back up the stairs so you can get the bonfire. Easy. I spend a quick minute hunting down the Channeler in the depths, and all the rats surrounding it die in one hit and the Channeler dies in two. Penultimately for this area is the Gaping Dragon. I only deal 128 damage a shot, or 192 if I hit the head, but I don't think I got hit a single time in the entire fight. Just strafe left or right and hammer the attack trigger. Easy win. I put all the souls from the dragon into dexterity, bringing it up to level 37. Only 3 more levels until the soft cap for the stat is hit. And ultimately, in the depths, I make sure to free Laurentius from his barrel cage and speak to him to send him to Firelink Shrine. It's unfortunately time to do some farming for items. I head down to Blighttown. If you didn't know, there's some large Titanite around Blighttown, and the slugs around the Arch Tree have a small chance to drop large Titanite shards, but that's not where the real farm spot is. I instead head into the Crystal Hollow. In there are 10 crystal lizards on the way down the tree. I end up getting 2 Titanite slabs from these lizards, and while I didn't kill all of them, and could have kept going looking for chunks and large Titanite shards, there is a much safer method that doesn't involve the chance of me getting cursed by basilisks. These 2 slabs will eventually be given to Kingseeker Frampt for him to devour, which will provide 2 chunks for each slab, and as I only need 6 chunks and a Titanite slab for a plus 15 weapon, these drops actually worked out better than if I'd gotten chunks or large Titanite drops. In order to get the rest of the large Titanite I need for a plus 10 weapon, I simply kill the slugs outside of the Great Hollow. All in all, it only took 37 minutes of farming, so I'd get a plus 10 weapon and a plus 14 weapon when Kinseeker Frampt spawns. I head back up to Andre so I can upgrade my weapon and buy more arrows, as I spent nearly all of them farming. I also make sure to kick Lautrec off of the cliff so I can have Firelink Shrine lit for the entire run, and obtain the Ring of Favour and Protection, which, spoiler alert, I will never use. Once my weapon is upgraded, I go test it out on the closest boss nearby, the Moonlight Butterfly, and while it floats down as usual, it floats down even harder when I kill the boss on my first try in one cycle. It's now back to Blighttown for the next boss, and it's the second reason why my sister won't play the Dark Souls series, Chaos Witch Quelaag, and I didn't even need to cheese the fight by stunlocking her. I didn't get hit a single time. That's the second Bell of Awakening, and Sen's Fortress is now open. So I give Kinseeker Frampt the slabs and obtain the chunks needed to plus 14 my weapon after I get the very large Ember. I head to the New Londo ruins, and it's a whole process to pick up the Ember. The first thing I have to do is shoot the holder of the key to the seal, which isn't hard because I can outrange him from the walkway to the ghost house. The second part is to drain the water from New Londo, which takes a couple of attempts to get through the ghost house and to the lever, but I managed nonetheless. Then I can finally pick up the very large Ember. I then use the Ember to upgrade my weapon with the previously gathered chunks to plus 14. I decide to test the weapon out on the closest optional boss, the Stray Demon. So, it's back to the Undead Asylum. My damage is actually pretty good, 219 per large arrow. This fight, however, is an exercise in restraint and patience. Taking my time and waiting for attacks, such as the butt slam or the staff slam, are good opportunities. Or any time I get round to his backside often, bait those moves. About 15 minutes of attempts go and the boss goes down, and my reward is a Titanite slab to max out my weapon and a peculiar doll. Sen's Funhouse is up next, and it's a quick exercise in timing and running past enemies. I take out the giant that's throwing firebombs at the top of the fortress, with several arrows right up Main Street, and another replacing a certain part of his anatomy with a wooden shaft. The Iron Golem was another hitless fight. Just stay in melee range and either roll through his attacks or roll through his legs like the last giant for an easy win. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. Finally, Anor Londo, the city of the gods. Not quite the welcome I was expecting, with everything here trying to kill me, but hey, what can you do? The rafters, as always, is a nerve-wracking experience, but other than that, it's an easy run through to the bonfire before ONS, where I make sure to kindle the fire. Ornstein and Smo is probably the best gank fight that From Software has ever produced, and I need to do the harder version of it in my opinion, because when Ornstein is killed, he drops the Leo Ring, which increases counter damage from thrusting weapons. So I need to kill Smo first, which leaves me the problem of having to kill Smo first. There isn't anything to do here besides a good old-fashioned cup of get good. It's time to buckle down and beat this duo fight. It takes several attempts, but I managed to learn the fight enough with a bow to beat the boss. The first to note is that keeping both bosses in view is essential, and Smo's attacks can easily be punished. And with literally 1 HP, I also defeat Super Ornstein and pick up the Leo Ring, which adds 40% damage to counter attacks. With the duo dead, I obtain the Lord Vessel and plant my large arrow into the second biggest catfish in Dark Souls, and head back to Firelink Shrine to place the Lord Vessel and unlock the second half of the game. I decide to tackle the Duke's archives first for no particular reason, and after running through the archives to the first Seath encounter, I wake up in a prison cell and can't shoot an arrow through the bars. So I kill the snake man with my fist. Fun fact, if you die on the first run down the library, then the music turns off and you don't have to get past the tentacle hentai monsters. There is nothing but pain and death in the Grand Archives, mostly because I just run through the entire area instead of clearing it out. But it doesn't really matter. Skipping to the Crystal Cave, I die falling off the invisible platform, and also die to a clam that snuck its way into the boss fight. This is somewhat frustrating, but it's fine. The Seath fight is super easy, and I just managed to take it to him on the next attempt. With his crystal broken at the start of the fight, I can get a decent amount of damage on him, and he doesn't really know what to do. He just flounders around and keeps doing easy attacks that I can dodge. And without the clam interfering, it's a pretty easy win. For the Dark Sun Gwendolyn, I decide that the most fitting end for being a catfish is being cheesed at the end of the hallway with feather arrows and the hawk ring. Another easy win. Shut up, it counts. With his soul, I made the Dark Moon bow, and spoiler alert, this weapon, despite my best efforts, always performs worse than the Black Bow of Faris, and I tried everything, maxing out faith, making sure to use moonlight arrows. Nothing worked, and this bow disappointed me all the way until I fought Artorius. So I'm not going to mention the bow again, but keep in mind that for every boss I tried to make the weapon work all the way up until the halfway point of the DLC. My next stop is in the Darkroot Basin, where I unfortunately have to kill the best girl, Great Grey Wolf Sif. I thought about trying the glitch where you shoot over the walls of her arena to kill her, but if she has to die anyway, she deserves to go out in a blaze of glory, defending her master's grave. And, as always, the fight is as sad as ever. I try to make it quick. Fuck you, FromSoft, for making me do that. I don't feel as bad for killing Gwendolyn in a cheesy manner anymore. I'm pretty nervous about Nito. His skeletons can really mess you up, so therefore I think it's time to do some preparation. It's time to change the build into what every Skyrim build eventually becomes, the Stealth Archer. I grab the Slumbering Dragoncrest ring from Sen's Fortress, which makes all my footsteps silent, and then I head into the catacombs to kill the necromancers for the Skull Lantern. And with the Gold Serpent ring, I only need to kill 2 before the item drops and I take on the next boss, Pinwheel. He dies in just 5 shots from my bow. Then I enter the Tomb of the Giants and I grab the large Divine Ember as a backup plan in case the Stealth Archer doesn't work out. And then of course I die from the giant skeletons. I walk back to Firelink Shrine and head back to the Asylum for the 3rd time. I drop my Skull Lantern in Snuggly the Crow's nest and reload the game, picking up the Ring of Fog Snuggly has given me. This is the reason I never used the Ring of Favour and Protection, and after using the Dark Sign I head back to the Catacombs and into the Tomb of the Giants, where I get kicked down a hole by Patches. Oh yeah, and the Ring of Fog makes you invisible, so I'm completely invisible and also silent. It's not all bad. I can grab another Skull Lantern so I can see where I'm going. There isn't anything else in the tomb except the covetous Silver Serpent ring and one other special item that I hope I won't need. I sprint through everything until I get to the second bonfire, and I kindle it until it has 20 Estus, because I'm going to combine the 2 strategies of Stealth Archer and Tank and Spank. It's time for Nito, first of the dead, and my second Lord's soul. With the Ring of Fog, I'm invisible, and with the Slumbering Dragoncrest ring, I make no sound when I move. Combined with the stone armor, I can just stand there and shoot Nito with arrows. Because the skeletons don't aggro on me, the damage is perfectly fine and manageable. I tried the 4 Kings a couple of times, and my fabled Tank and Spank strategy fails me. Even with 20 Estus, the Kings simply deal too much damage for me to out-heal, and I didn't level up health even a single time. I do give it a couple more tries, just trying to get good, but I get destroyed for almost 15 minutes straight. I think I need to let this one cook for a bit. Down in Blighttown, I grab the wood grain ring from Shiva's bodyguard, giving my rolls more invincibility frames and turning them into flips. It's down into the demon ruins for the next boss gauntlet. First up is the Ceaseless Discharge, and it's as simple as running up to the tomb in his arena, stealing his sister's clothes, and then running back to the boss fog, where he only takes 5 hits to send him to his death via gravity. Continuing with the gauntlet is the Demon Fire Sage, and holy moly, I am terrible at this boss fight. He kicked my butt for almost 30 minutes straight. So much so that it's finally time to talk about how the red tearstone ring interacts with the bow and arrow. Now, against the Fire Sage, my bow normally deals 230 damage, and the red tearstone ring should provide a 50% damage boost to that number, right? Well, no. See, the ring actually provides a 50% boost to the bow's base damage and the arrow's base damage, which means instead of hitting for 345 damage, it hits for 414 damage. That's an extra 80% damage just from the red tearstone, almost double. With the Demon Fire Sage dead, the next boss is right here, the Centipede Demon, who dies easily on the first try. Honestly, this isn't even hard. Just healing the damage and staying under it is a perfectly viable strategy, and then I just shoot. The last boss within the Izalith Gauntlet is the Bed of Chaos, as everyone knows, the worst boss From Software has ever released. I don't even think it's worth talking about, but I may as well. We go through the right side first and die, run back through the Chaos Covenant shortcut and go to the left side to break the second tendril, then die again. Finally, we run down the center, don't die, and kill the Bed of Chaos with a single arrow. The last of the Lord's Soul required to beat the game is the Four Kings, and I struggled with this boss. I don't want to pull out my secret weapon just yet, so my only option is to get good and beat this boss straight up. And keep in mind that I've still been trying to make the Dark Moon bow work the entire time, and I've had it leveling up, faith, and upgrading the weapon to max, and it still sucks more than the black bow. Now, the Four Kings are a DPS test, and we have a bow and arrow. DPS is not our forte when we have to be slow and methodical with our movements, and attacks to be safe when fighting bosses, which means we are undoubtedly getting swarmed by the kings. Unfortunately, everything that can go wrong in this fight does. There's terrible hitboxes, my weapon breaks at one point, getting so close to the end and dying, and just generally not having a good time. But eventually, it all just clicked. Being able to kite multiple kings at once, finding the attack opportunities, the kings finally go down after more than an hour of attempts. It's time to clean up the last optional boss in the base game, Priscilla, and it only takes me like 5 minutes to walk through the painted world, and honestly, even though I have to free aim the entire fight, it's not hard to kill her at this point with my pretty good damage. Now it's time for the DLC setup. We head to the Darkroot Basin where we kill the Hydra, and I think this is the first time I've had the range to just shoot the Hydra's body. I don't have to worry about trying to hit the head or any such nonsense. I can just shoot and dodge. After that, I free Dusk from the Golden Golem and grab the broken pendant from the Duke's archives. Then head back to the basin and get grabbed by Manus through a time portal and into the past where the DLC finally starts. What a long and arduous process that makes even the DLC of Dark Souls 2 simple to enter. It's time for the 4 super bosses of Dark Souls 1. Well, 3 super bosses and 1 base game boss that somehow snuck its way in here. First up is the Sanctuary Guardian, the base game boss that somehow made it into the DLC, and it's easy. Despite me trying so hard to make the Dark Moon bow works, it still deals 50% of the damage that the black bow does. Other than that, the boss isn't too tough. It takes good damage and leaves itself open during most of its attacks, unlike some bosses in this DLC, so we have ample opportunity to deal damage. First boss of the DLC down. Then I spend 20 minutes trying to run to Artorius, and I keep dying to Marvelous Chester because I wanted his Bloodborne-esque coat, but can't kill him because somehow his sniper crossbow, the slowest weapon in the game, can shoot faster than my bow. I just decided to stealth archer cheese him. About 30 seconds into my first attempt of Artorius of the Abyss, it becomes pretty clear that this boss is going to be a problem. He obviously deals a lot of damage, and he takes very little damage in return. Not only that, he's quick, like insanely quick. If I'm lucky, I might be able to get in 1 or 2 arrows before a follow-up, and while there is no doubt that with enough temps I could kill him like this, it would take an ungodly amount of time, and then I'd just run into the same problem with Manus and Calamit. Each of them would take at least 3 to 4 hours of attempts. Therefore, I think it's better to change the build again. And while I've got you here, you might as well go ahead and subscribe and ring the notification bell, as well as drop a comment. You made it this far into the video after all. First, I grab Power Within. Then I grab the Symbol of Avarice to get into hyper mode easier. Lastly, I get Cursed to cut my health in half. Lastly is the Sanctus Shield, which I picked up in the Tomb of the Giants, which gives me a small health regeneration. Equip the Sanctus Shield, the Dust Crown Ring, the Red Tearstone Ring, and get low health using the health drain of the Symbol of Avarice, and use Power Within. And we have now achieved Infinite Hyper Mode. With Infinite Hyper Mode, our boosts all stack multiplicatively. 50% from the Red Tearstone Ring and 40% from Power Within, all equal to 3.5 times more damage from the bow. This significantly cuts down on the number of shots we need to land in order to kill Artorius, from 116 to 407. The fight is still tough, and I can only get hit once when he attacks me, and I always have to be on point lest I die in one hit, because while I have boosted my damage tremendously, it has come at a great cost. I am now the ultimate glass cannon. With just a little bit of practice and a total of 40 minutes of attempts, the Abyss Walker finally goes down. Ulasil Township is made a bit easier using the Stealth Archer build, but there's only one item in the town that I'm interested in, the Crest Key. Nothing else is useful or even remotely interesting, so let's talk about the 2 remaining boss fights. I run down to Calamit's arena, sniping the dogs along the way before dying to the dragon, and it's clear to me that I need the help of a professional dragon slayer. I therefore go and talk to Hawkeye Goff, and he shows me how to truly hunt dragons. Calamit takes about 30 minutes of attempts, but with his plethora of openings and my decent damage for a ranged weapon, Calamit falls before my arrows. even though it's kind of an RNG nightmare, Calamit still has tons of openings when compared to like almost any other dragon fight in the game. And while you can get pretty lucky with some hitboxes, his calamity attacks and pretty much all his fire breath attacks are points to attack from. Manus, Father of the Abyss, takes only 10 minutes of attempts, and most of that time is the boss run back. Maybe 8 attempts at the boss total. If I get lucky with headshots here, I deal 800 damage a hit, which is more than any other hit that I've done in the game. Otherwise, over 400 damage is pretty good, and I can still get counter damage in. His dark magic is quite easy to avoid if you know what you're doing, which I do. The overhead magic attack, you can just roll or run to the side. The circular dark magic attack, the one that surrounds him and pushes in on him, you just need to run towards him. And the shotgun blast, which I never saw this run, you just need to run straight towards him and dodge diagonally. With one final headshot, Manus, Father of the Abyss, goes down. With the Lord's souls offered to the Lord Vessel, the final area of the game is unlocked. The Kiln of the First Flame. Gwyn, Lord of Cinder, as always, is really easy. And this time, it's not because we can parry him, but because of his AI. When we shoot, he dodges, unsuccessfully. And because he's considered dodging, he takes counter damage. So what should be 400 damage is actually 700 damage. And all of his attacks can be punished with the same opening. Now, we can't get more than one hit in a row. His AI is programmed to only dodge once and then follow up at a certain spacing point. However, in the final attempt, it takes less than a minute to kill him, and the final boss of Dark Souls 1 goes down, and the run is won. That was a blast. I've never done a bow-only run in any Dark Souls game, and I was surprised at how much fun I actually had. The build variety that you can get with just a bow is awesome, and I was so interested that I immediately started researching the Dark Souls 2 run. Hopefully the boss weapon bows will be better in the second game, because the Dark Moon bow sucked so badly. Anyway, if you made it this far, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and leave a comment to help with the YouTube algorithm. And I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out.